All right, I'm pretty pumped up to introduce Joss Biggins, who is a new friend of mine, but also a good friend already. We're aligned in our thinking processes a lot right now, digging into the world of technology and second brain building. And yeah, Joss is you could classify him as an independent thinker, and he pushes the boundaries with know what kind of content to actually share online. Like if you look at Joss's stuff, he's almost sharing the process of what he's doing as he's building out this online business. How do you convert ideas into content? How do you process all these things? Whereas most people are just doing this on the back end. Joss is talking about, he's tweeting about it, and he's figuring out how to systemize this. Um, yeah, he's a
Okay.
sorry,
Okay.
Siri's acting up here. Hang on 1 second.
I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear that? Sorry.
Hmm. I don't have it.
Talk about second brain. So yeah, Joss. I guess I don't have much more to say other than just if you can't keep up with his thinking, just pay attention to his jawline because it's pretty nice to look at. So Joss, good to have you on, man.
Max, you're hilarious. You're 10 out of 10. I appreciate it. Guys, thanks for the intro. I manage money for a living. I'm a portfolio manager up in Canada. A bit of a digital nomad. I spend most of my time in Nicaragua or Latin America, and then right now I'm calling you from my office in Canada. Um, that's not really very relevant to you. Sticking with the kind of Alex Hormozy theme, I have nothing to sell you. This is stuff that I'm really passionate about. I've obsessed about. To give you some back and kind of story on this is during the pandemic, I moved to Nicaragua, lived on a farm, and started to obsess about things that were in my control. Got really deep into stoicism, got really deep into productivity, got really deep into literally the things I could control. And that's how this inception of this idea, for me, my interpretation of it, of a second brain, of information management, of creative output actually came along. Max, how long do I have here? Because I know we're over time.
You've actually there's no one coming after you, so you have until I believe 7 p.m. Eastern time. So hopefully,
Word. I could rock for that long. I could rock for that long. So, I guess Zach's presentation was incredible, very detail oriented, very tactical, very nice, very like it made me happy to watch that. I think from my perspective here, I don't I don't want to be very heady with this. I want to explain this idea of a second brain to you and this idea of information management, this idea of metabolizing information in a way that is really simple because I'm personally not that smart. And I don't think that we can really remember that much. That's why we need a second brain. And so I want to kind of, at the end of this call or by the end of this call, I want to get through just a couple of principles to you on why this is actually useful in the world. So, what is a second brain? I have no slides, shows, none of that. I just want to kind of riff on this idea of what are we actually doing today as knowledge workers, as coaches, as online business owners, as entrepreneurs. All we are doing is we are taking information, metabolizing it, spinning it around, putting our creative spin on it, and spinning it out in different frameworks and different mediums to different people, to different audiences, right? We're all trying to be interesting. We're all trying to be impressive. I don't know about you, but like for me, what makes people impressive, I think about the Sean Connery types, Sean Connery types. I think about the Jack Sparrows, personally obsessed with that character, like the Oprahs or the Richard Bransons. What makes those people impressive is that they carry, I deeply believe that we should carry the entirety of our life with us wherever we go. We step into the room, we have a level of information, a level of experience, a level of wisdom that carries with us. Ryan Holiday is quoted frequently on just being able to go, author of The Obstacle is the Way, and many other books on Stoicism, is quoted frequently on being able to go into situations and just have a breadth of knowledge. How do we create a breadth of knowledge and have a system for referencing that? That is what a second brain is. So In a more tactical term, if you haven't heard of it, the second brain is essentially an idea that was popularized by a guy named Tiago Forte. So go back, there's a book, there's podcasts, there's so much stuff. Go play in that, and you can kind of get into the details. For me, I want to actually say why this is important, what the principles are. This is a productivity system. It's about resource management. I led the call with saying when I was in Nicaragua, I obsessed around the things that I could control. Another Stoic principle, right? And I thought about it. What can I control? And I came up with this idea, this principle of team management: time, attention, time, energy, attention, and money. Those are the only resources that I have in this world. How can I optimize all of those? The second brain system addresses a few of those. We have this issue here today of overconsumption. How much information do we consume? So much freaking information. It's preposterous. I want to be mindful about the information that I consume. I want to be in a situation where I'm in control and making a meal out of the content that I consume, so I can actually metabolize it correctly. There's a few principles in the world that really help. There's a few principles in the universe that really help us kind of make sense of things and seem to apply regardless of where we apply them. So this idea of metabolization, when we think about food, we want to eat food that we can metabolize well, that we can actually be mindful about, that we can taste, right? We can feel in our bodies. We all know when we're in a good spot with our food, we can feel in our bodies what food is doing for us or to us. I believe the information is the same way training is the same. When we go out, we have incredible sessions, we feel in our body. That is what this is about. When we go out and we have an incredible lecture, or we listen to an incredible panel, such as Max has put on here today, we feel the information affecting and changing our nervous system, right? We can only do that if we're mindful about the information that we consume. So through this second brain system, all it is essentially is a information playground where I have three parts. Four, 3 plus 1, a consumption part, a condensed part, a condensing the information part, a creating part, and a cycle part. All this information comes in, and I guess I will actually share my screen if I could. Max, can I do that?
Sure.
I wasn't going to, but we'll roll with the punches here.
We're getting an inside scoop into your second brain.
Guys, this is showing you my nudies, this is real. This is real stuff here. This is so the second brain system is taking all of these input mediums and capturing them. So here, and this isn't very, super important, but we have all these mediums, external and internal, anything that passes through my brain. I want you to think of your brain like an AI system, like a nervous system, because that's what it is. So we have all of these things passing through us internally, coming from, actual thoughts that I'm having, revelations, shower moments, or externally, conversations that I'm having, something that I noticed in passing a camera roll. I was in a bookstore yesterday and I saw a quote up in the wall that said, we define ourselves we are in charge of the dictionary that we define ourselves by. I go, that's incredible. Boom. All of a sudden in my second brain, it was resurfaced to me today through the system I'll explain in a second. So in passing a conversation, Audible, Spotify, YouTube, a web page, a PDF, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, meetings, email, text, all of this stuff just comes in, it comes through our eyeballs, it gets into our nervous system. I put all of these things into these various mediums: voice notes, camera rolls, Instapaper, I get into that, Twitter. And at the end of the day or the next day, I sit down, I go to my camera roll, I go to my Twitter feed, right? And I go to my voice notes and I go, what do I want to consciously consume here? Right? What do I want to input into my second brain? That all goes into something that's called a deep brain database. I will explain that in a moment. This little area right here is how I start to organize the information, which leads me to a key principle of this whole thing. Information is only valuable based on its relative proximity. Information is like Tinder and Match, right? If you put it in the right places, sparks will fly. So how do we reorganize our information in a way that serendipity and creativity happens without us even noticing? Where we go, oh my gosh, I'd never seen those two things together, but now that I'm looking at it that way, holy shit, I can make this an online course. Oh my gosh, I can go ahead and make content out of this. I never thought about how plumbing and nutrition worked together, but they're linked by this idea of flow. Oh shit, I can create content on that. All of a sudden, I'm like a genius. Oh my gosh, Josh, you're so insightful because he just puts these things together in ways I never knew, right? This is a creative process. Creatives will win, I believe, in the coming decades. Creatives will win. How do we be creatives in the knowledge economy? Anyways, that's what this part is about right here. Slip, box, theme, part, quotes, principles, whatever, who cares? From there, I'll get into it in a second. From there, I have that synced up to something, which is the circle part. So we have consumed it. We have condensed it now in our deep brain system. This is an end of day review process. We go through and we take notes, we review what's important, and there's systems for that too, which I won't get into today. That then goes into our deep brain system. As soon as it goes into our deep brain system, which by the way, is in Notion, of course, because I'm a fiend. Um, goes into our second brain system, and then automatically through all these linked databases and tagging systems gets thrown into these different areas in an intelligent way. From there, it goes into this, if I tag it correctly, and I hit that little tick box, it goes in this program called Readwise, which I would highly recommend. Tangible takeaway, everyone go and see Google Readwise. Resurfacing information, resurface your learnings, resurface your experiences. Readwise is a very simple app. All that it does is it gives me a notification every day based on themes or areas or just everything that I've ever put in there. It will link up to PDFs. It will link up to books. It will lead up to podcasts. It will link up to an app called Air, where you can make air quotes, little snips of podcasts, and it will resurface them anywhere from 1 highlight to 7 highlights a day or more. For instance, right now, I'm in the process of acquiring a property with a new real estate strategy, the Burr method. Now, my Readwise every day resurfaces anything that I've ever read or consumed on real estate. And it says, hey, Joss, you thought this was really valuable on the topic of real estate. Here it is. Maybe it's applicable, maybe it's not. Now, all of a sudden, I've increased my surface area for luck and serendipity. Oh my gosh, I could actually do a cash out refinance on that. I read that in the Burr book 3 years ago. There's no way that I would have put that together had Readwise not resurfaced it. That goes to Readwise. All of a sudden, I get to this process of creative metabolizing, of going in and saying, information is abundant. What do I do with it? How can I get to a position where I can have new creative geniuses? Nothing is original. That's what a genius actually is. A creative genius is someone that takes things that shouldn't be together and puts them together, right? How can we do that in the knowledge economy? And all of a sudden, I use this, as Max alluded to feed into my content creation machine. Not the topic of this conversation here today, but I'll just, since we're kind of in my camera roll anyways, goes over to this. And I won't get into it today, but this goes in, my second brain fits in, starts to feed into something that's called a content carousel. I'm pretty fly with the names, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty proud of that one because it just goes round and round. You know what I mean? It's playful, right? Everything needs to be a joke. So in there, from there, everything I consume, thank you for the claps, I appreciate y'all. Everything then goes into automatically into the content creation carousel where I'm thoughtful and I'm mindful about the content that I create that then goes out to the world. I'm not going to get into this right now. I will really go deep into it. And I don't want to spend too much time here because it's not that important. The tactics, the weeds, the gears is not that important. From here, this is my second brain is as simple as this. I have this weird green line there. I don't know what that is, but my second brain is as simple as this. It's these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. I have apps and widgets on my phone. I have one widget on my phone that has quick creation, so I can go and make a note and make an entry in my deep brain really, really quickly. This is my deep brain. It's not important. It's the gears, right? So you can see there's all types of types and authors and whose ideas was this? Was it an original idea? Was it an extrapolated idea? Was it a metabolized idea? Or was it actually truly mine? Was it a shower thought? Oh my gosh, I thought of this. For instance, the other day I thought of, oh, wow, graphic designers are the carpenters of our time. I was like, I don't know where I got that from, but I think that's pretty fly. Let me write that down, right? It can relate to certain themes, certain projects, right? From here, I spend so much time. This is now the condensing of information. Now we're in this source code. So here I can organize by book, podcast, course, article, video. I'm not going and watching a YouTube fucking video unless I'm taking notes on it. I'm not doing it, right? Because it's so tempting. That algorithm knows me so well. Oh my gosh, how is the US like tampering in Syrian elections? I'd like to know about that. No, Josh, you don't need to know about that. Stop it, right? Quotes, principles. What are the principles that I live my life by? I actually have that in my second brain. These are my principles for life. I have principles for life. I have principles for investing, principles for health. I got that idea to create principles in my second brain after Readwise resurfaced a quote from a Ray Dalio book. It said, write down your principles as you execute on them and as you live them. Advance your just cause, Simon Sinek. Complexity is stupidity in disguise every day. I was actually about to go and make this big elaborate presentation for this conference. I was like, nah, complexity is stupidity in disguise. Everything compounds, crucial part to this productivity system. Leave room for error, all of these things. And so this automatically is a linked database. It shows up. I don't have to do any work. Low friction, low friction, low friction, low friction.
I think we were seeing your content creation machine page still. I don't think we.
Oh,
are you on a different one?
I am on a different one here.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see.
I wasn't sure if you were just riffing or if you were.
I mean, I am always just riffing. Hold on one second here.
I have like matrix vision to see what you're talking about.
Here, I'll go back here. Are we there?
Yeah, looks good.
Boom. These 5 pages, deep brain, that's what I just talked about here. Since y'all missed it, source code over here. This organized information based off where I got it. Book, podcast, course, article, not that important. Why? Because I'm not going to use it based on that. I'm not going to go back while I'm working on a project and go, oh, I don't know, like what's all the information that I've ever like consumed from a video? It's not that important. Principles, as I just kind of went into, all my principles for life as I know it. Live off the land. Your job isn't done until the job is done. Radical honesty, love as a principle. All of this exists, writings that I've done, meetings that I've done, and then I just have this thing called things, and I don't really know what it is, but it's just everything else. I came up with this idea of a power law in 2023. And the note is, as literally everything becomes more exponential, you better be in the top 20% or you're fucked. I don't know. Word. Sounds good. So organizing by where it's from, organizing by subject. For instance, right here, I can go in and I have everything that I've ever done on artificial intelligence, for instance. This is an information distilling process on the right here. A learning system. I won't get into it right now. The goal that it relates back to. So I can go and I can view by subject. That's also not that interesting. Where things get really interesting is viewing things by idea. This is where how does plumbing and nutrition actually come together? Right? That's my creative genius. That's my edge. That's my social edge. That is the content that I put out. That is the message that I put out. Right? How does Ben Patrick figure out that weightlifting is actually about having it reversible to any level for any type of person at any strength or fitness level? That's the key to his success. Those are two different ideas and two different concepts. How do we put them together? Right? The idea of moving backwards in order to go forwards, that's a beautiful philosophical principle that he tied in with training methods. How do you do that? That's genius to me. I want to do that. I'm not that smart, but I want to do shit like that. So I have these ideas, certain themes, compounding, duality, distribution, nature, goals, ethical, knowledge, economy. It goes on and on and on. And I'm still kind of in the process of bringing things in as I recently moved from Evernote. I'm new to the Church of Notion. I go through, and now as I start to give a talk on something like productivity or the idea of compounding, as I go to give this talk, I go, oh yeah, I should talk about retrieval APIs, personal proprietary data set, because compounding is what the second brain is about. That's what it's compounding your information, compounding your experience, compounding your attention, compounding your information, right? I'll get into this in a second. So that's when we start to organize by themes, that's where things get really interesting. That's where magic happens. That's where sparks fly. That's where we expand the surface area for luck. Lastly, only because Max mentioned it, I have this thing called a content carousel. Fucking fly. And these emojis, oh my gosh. This is where I go in and I worked with a consultant on content. And so with each piece of content, I'm defining the mindset, I'm defining the knowledge that people have, their level of understanding, the expectations people have on consuming the concept, the emotion that I'm trying to inflict, right? Inflict sounds nefarious in the takeaway, right? This is the preguntarse is the verb in Spanish to wonder. Preguntar is the verb in Spanish to ask. Right? I went, oh my gosh, there's a beautiful inflection to ask oneself. Preguntar, preguntarse. It makes it reflexive. To wonder is to ask oneself. To preguntar is to ask externally. Wonder is internal, right? To ask is external. That's beautiful. We can talk about that. These pieces all come from my deep brain, automatically in there. And then from there, I start to work it out. So everything you see on any social platform, it comes from here, literally everything. So I have that, and I guess I'll leave it there in terms of explaining the actual nuts and bolts with it, and kind of go back now to the principles of it. So we have these problems around, we're consuming stuff all the time. We're not being very mindful of it, right? And the consumption of stuff, it's a waste of time. And we trick ourselves to thinking we're productive. This is a productivity panel, productivity summit. We're not productive, right? We know how truly productive we actually are, and it's not that much, right? Because we trick ourselves with the algorithms. Oh, I need to watch this for sure. Oh, this is boring. No, it's not. If you're not willing to put the effort in, if you're not willing to be mindful about the meal that you're eating, oh yeah, I'm going to go get this McDonald's burger. Are you going to be mindful about that? Right? You're going to sit there and enjoy that meal? Are you going to have a plate, right? And go, wow, that's an incredible bite that I'm taking. No, you're not, right? No, you're not. I'm not. Maybe you are. We want to be mindful about it. In the mindfulness of it, we have this issue with polarization in our world. Put an idea, put an experience, put a podcast, put a book into your second brain. Go through, make the notes on it, and play with the ideas, right? Have them resurfaced. You thought this one thing about this tidbit of information this one time, but when it popped back up on your phone, you looked at it and go, oh my gosh, I actually only thought that because I was in a certain mood. I was polarized in a certain way, right? How do we start to play with ideas more? We start to play with ideas more by creating space and resurfacing them. Okay, so we have those two problems. Also, we have this problem with our brains. Fundamentally, they're not used to this much information. The brain is for having ideas, not keeping them. You are all creative geniuses. You just need the time and the space to let your creative juices flow, right? But you're trying to keep all these fucking ideas in your head. Don't. Go have them, write them down, and then leave them. Let them incubate in a safe and secure spot called your second brain, right? We also have this issue, again, because I shared the power law, right? This power law, Pareto law, is this idea of, well, if you're not in the top 20%, the top 20% always just keep getting better. You know, iron sharpens iron, right? The best people on this call are going to get better. Why? Because they're on this call, right? The best people in Uncom are going to get better. Why? Because they're in Uncom, right? That's how it works. We need to compound everything that we do, right? Because the power law is so real, because of technology, capitalism leverages everything. We need to make sure that we're compounding everything. How do you compound your information? How do you make it come up? Money compounds, fitness compounds, network compounds, food compounds, habits compound, information compounds. I mean, yeah, sure, you can say that, but like not really though, because for instance, money compounds, I can say that, sure, but like only if you put it in an investment. You have a toonie, oh, I'm sorry, you guys aren't Canadian. You have a $2 bill sitting on your counter, right? That's not gonna do anything. It's gonna earn any interest. But you put it in a bank account, it'll get a little bit of interest. All of a sudden, it's compounding. And then you put it in an investment. All of a sudden, okay, now we're really compounding. You put it in real estate. Now we're really compounding. Information is the same way. A book just sitting there does nothing, right? You need to have active engagement and extrapolation with your information. That is how we make information compound. You need to share your information. That is how we make information compound, right? And that is truly exponential in nature, the same way that money is truly exponential in nature. The same way that going up and having your 5, 10, 15-minute walk every morning is truly exponential in nature. Having your cold plunge is truly exponential in nature, but only if you compound it. The first rule of compounding is leave it uninterrupted, Charlie Munger. We have this problem, we don't compound information, while at the same time, information is the single most vital resource that we have, right? And the last thing in terms of problems that we have, we're not managing our time. We've addressed that. We're not managing our energy. I'm going to leave that one hanging for a bit. We're not managing our attention. Again, this addresses that. We're not managing our money the way that we should be. We'll leave that to the side for now. But we can manage our time and attention, those two, far better through a second brain system, right? And I guess the last thing I want to leave you guys with is think about those problems, because like your answer to those problems really, really will inform your actions. And rather than going through and saying, you know what, I'm going to build a second brain system and I'm going to hoard all this information because it makes me feel better. And that's where I started too, because I'm a control freak, right? It made me feel better. Oh, no, it's okay. I'm doing this and I have these notes to show for it. Oh, look at all these data entries on this shit. Wow, I'm so smart. Hey, look at all the books I've read. Like one of my biggest quirks with this office is my bookshelf is over there, and that's my biggest flex. And it's not even on camera right now, but I can show you all my second brain and be like, look how smart I am, right? And that's how it started. It started from egoic place, but it's growing into a more mindful place. If you do work in educating and communicating and leading, in reading and researching, if you do anything in the knowledge economy, you must have a second brain. It's preposterous not to. Compound everything. Information is the most valuable thing you can compound. It's more valuable than money, right? Compound it. Create creative, low friction systems that have intelligent proximity. So you start to see things in a way that you didn't see them before. Oh, I got this piece of information while I was sitting in my office versus I got this piece of information resurfaced when I was, I don't know, out on the trail. And all of a sudden I had the space to metabolize information differently. Crucial piece of information nonetheless, right? But the context didn't allow me to make anything of it. That helps you become a world-class learner, a world-class creative. And you force serendipity. You expand the surface area of luck, right? I have lots of stories about that. Keep it low friction, proximity matters. And the last kind of point, just to illustrate the power of this, is We are now in a world, 2023, where we have things like ChatGPT, right? All of a sudden, information is abundantly available, and it's not even about how I can organize the information. I can ask it to organize the information. The only thing that we have is our ability to communicate human to human, right? And our ability to metabolize, big word here, metabolize information in a way that is unique to my experiences. My distinct advantage as Joss, the content creator, because that's what I identify as, is my ability to take all of the information that or whatever I'm seeing in front of me and put it through the filter that is my life and my experiences and my perspective and my personality. That's all I have. Anyone can have this. Anyone can show you what a second brain is. Only I can do it like this, right? That's all I have. That's my unique advantage. And so that is my proprietary data. So now, 2023, we can take something like ChatGPT or any AI plugin and go, hey, point it at my second brain and go, hey, second brain, hey, AI, can you write a book on philosophy and organize the book based on everything that I've ever written myself on philosophy? And all of a sudden I got an ebook like that, right? Hey, can you go in and actually make Cole's note or extrapolate from the Cole's notes from the research that I've done, not my thoughts, but others' thoughts, and rearrange that information in a way that conveys these three principles. There's my title. There's the content. I'm able to do that and create that instantly because I've been doing the work constantly every day. We talk about doing the work constantly every day in nutrition, in health, and content creation. Do the work every day in your education and in your management of information. That will compound far fucking more than this other shit, right? Not saying that it's not needed. I'll work out every day, don't get me wrong. But compound that, all of a sudden you have slow burns, you have things that will compound over time, and one day you can just point the AI, point your own brain at it, because I came up with the whole structure of this talk, right? 35 minutes ago, when I looked at it and went, what's everything I know about my second brain? Organize the principles, done, right? And that allows full expression of my creativity, right? And that's why a second brain is important. Imagine if Elon Musk had a data set of all of his metabolizations, all of his musings, all of his notes, all of his thoughts in one place, all of his learnings, all of his readings from the last 30 years. This would be the most valuable collection of data on Earth. And that's why you should consider a second brain. Right? It matters. Right?
It's awesome.
And that's all I got for you guys.
You crushed it, Joss. I want something you just said recently that kind of stuck out to me. Is you said you're forcing serendipity, and it almost felt paradoxical in my mind because I've always thought of serendipity as that it's more power. It's the opposite of force. You're almost in like this flow where serendipity just comes to you. So could you explain that? How did you mean that? Did you mean more like you're setting your life up so that the serendipity happens? And what other ways have you found that you can create that serendipity as well, like synchronicities and things like that?
Oh my gosh! I mean, you talk about all the most. I'm sure you guys have gone and seen all the most successful people interviews. Oh, how did you make it happen? And they all go back and go, a lot of luck, a lot of things had to line up. Of course, I did the work, right? And so how do you create that luck part? Like the Malcolm Gladwell, the opportunity plus preparations equals success, where you still need that opportunity. How do you create it? I'm not willing to let the universe decide if it's going to give me some luck. I'm gonna go make it, right? Okay, so how do you do that? Like if you're a networker or something, you're like, for instance, me in wealth management, when I got started, I learned how to sail, and I sat there at the yacht club And I tried to talk to anyone that would talk to me about sailing because I wanted to meet wealthy people. And then all of a sudden you look at it and go, wow, Joss is so lucky. Look at that little white boy just meeting all those wealthy people. No, I put myself in a position where I could create luck. I forced luck. For instance, it's like you can sit here and be like, oh, I'm just going to wait until lightning strikes. Or you can go to the top of a mountain with a metal rod, and it's still, the universe is still going to need to bless you in a way, but the chances are way higher. So we can do that with people. We can do that with opportunity. We can also do that with information. So because of the way that I'm resurfacing information from my second brain, it's allowing opportunities for this creative expression of luck, meaning like I had something resurface from my second brain that informed me of like, oh, I had a quote resurface from my second brain that said something around shared hardship and play is how you build connection. And I was in a game store buying dice for Liar's Dice, and I was about to go back down to Nicaragua, and I was like, oh, I saw this game off to the side called Wingspan. Someone that I'm trying to impress in Nicaragua, a very powerful real estate agent. It's this highly advanced game. And it was, you know, kind of one of those 4-hour games. And I was like, oh, wow, that's the connoisseur game of the year. I pull up my phone. Okay, playfulness and hardship. Oh, let me go buy this book about bird watching because the dude was into bird watching. So I can go experience that with him and all of a sudden form connection. That informed another idea. That, you know what? Why don't we take that a step further? When I'm down in Nicaragua, let's go together. Let's climb and let's summit 7 volcanoes in 7 days. And guess what's on all the volcanoes? Birds. Do I care about birds? No. Am I trying to get close to this person? Yes. I buy the bird game. We play the stupid bird game with his kids. And then we go and we hike 7 volcanoes in a row. That's one of my best friends now, right? That doesn't happen without Readwise. Doesn't happen, right? That's forced serendipity. And you go, oh, wow, he's so lucky he just met that person and got close to them. Nah, bro. So that's an idea of forced serendipity.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions for Joss?
Can I just ask a quick question, please?
Sure.
Hey Josh, how are you doing? That was amazing, kind of mind blowing, actually. Thank you so much. Just when you were talking about the putting the book and the podcast into Notion, do you then, when you were saying it regurgitates it for you, do you have already put the notes and everything in there? That's why it knows that, or does it decipher the book as it starts to get to know you? Maybe you explained it.
Yes. So no, really good point. So there's 2 ways that you can do it. If you go, I go content medium right into Notion, and then I feed into Readwise. If you go content medium and you sync right into Readwise, it'll do something that'll start saying supplementary highlights from this book, and it will start to feed you things that you didn't highlight, but might find interesting. So you can do it so it does that. But for me, I go through and I create a since this is a really good question, actually. So I'll just kind of pop this open one more time. If I go through and I create a new book and I go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna dive into this book. As I'm reading the book, or once I'm done in the book, generally as I'm reading it, I'll make these quotes, or sorry, I'll make these notes. And then as I find quotes, I'll put them here. And then I'll go, how the book has changed me. And then I go, who should I read it? Because knowledge and information only compounds if you share it and you resurface it. So that's a huge part. What are my impressions? The book in 3 sentences. This helps my learning process. Now, what Readwise will resurface is this whole note. And so then I'll go and I'll click the note and I'll just read the book in 3 sentences, right? Oh, okay, I want to go a little bit deeper. What are my actual impressions? Who should read it? Do I need to share it? How did the book change me? And then at the very bottom, so in the creation, I'm creating from bottom to top. And in the reviewing, through Readwise, top to bottom. Because I'm going from the notes and from the medium, from the book, from the podcast, from the article into Notion. It's going to be all manual because I want to because of the learning process that it entails. If I go right into Readwise, their AI and their tech will start automatically giving me more highlights and metabolizations. But I don't do that because I want my metabolizations to be mine, right? I want to see where I see value as opposed to where most people have seen value. Oh, most people highlighted this quote. You read David Goggins, and every, like, the highlight that will come up is like, who's going to carry the boats? And it's like, word, who's going to carry the boats? Like, that's not what I find most interesting. And the way I differentiate myself in the market is by projecting my own metabolization process. So I would not recommend that. I would say go and do the work, and don't just take what others find interesting. Take what you find interesting and project that, and put that into your content carousel, and put that out into the world. I think that it's you. It needs to be you.
Perfect. Thank you. That makes total sense. That was a really good explanation.
Wait, guys, anything else? Or are we gonna get back to our Sunday?
Where
Dude, that
can,
was really good.
Zach, go ahead.
On the mindful
Run it up,
consumption
run it up.
piece, how do you structure that toward like mindful goal oriented versus things that I think create more serendipity, spark those tangential connections? I think balancing those has been the either struggle or a big thing for me on love consuming information. Like, you get those nuggets that tie things together, you end up going through a lot of information to get there.
Right. So your second brain solves that in two ways. The first way is that the knowledge base of everything that you've ever gone through is a ton of information, and you're constantly getting it. You're constantly getting that. On the mindfulness piece, I use my anxiety to help me with this. So, like, I have anxiety around time efficiency, right? And about not hitting my goals. I hit my goals. I have time. I have time. Let's go get beers. No, I don't have time. Right. And so it's like, because I know that I want to spend 2 hours with this Huberman Lab podcast. Right. And I know that if I'm not actually focused on how to make my mitochondria most efficient, I'm actually focused on creating cash flow from real estate, that if I go and be mindfully consuming shit that's not where my goals are right now, that's actually going to cause more anxiety. So I actually need to stop and go do something that's applicable. So I'm using that anxiety around time to be more mindful, right? And that anxiety driver is the same thing that gets me to meditate. Because when I don't meditate, time goes by like this. But when I meditate, time slows down a little bit. But the problem with that is meditating takes 15 fucking minutes.
You're meditating and you're just like, I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my time.
Right. And so it's like, you're like, I want to mindfully consume this thing on the Huberman Lab. It's like, no, chill out. You don't, because that's actually going to add that's not useful. It's just not useful right now.
You mentioned, it's kind of related to what you're talking about now, but like you mentioned, I would never watch a YouTube video if I don't take notes. And I definitely understand where you're coming from, because if you just go to the algorithm and you're just mindlessly watching. We just had Graham Tuttle on earlier, and I got to spend a couple days. Basically, I just asked him if I could observe him, so I spent a couple days at his place like last year, and he doesn't take notes. So like I basically watched what he does, and he eats dinner, and he'll turn on Paul Council and he'll play him at 2x speed, and he just sits there, and he just lets it kind of flow into his brain. Same thing when he's driving. It's just podcast in the car. And he kind of talked about this concept of like Tim Ferriss is like the good shit sticks. So he loves writing. So he'll listen to stuff over and over and over, and then he will just go process it. He'll write for a half hour. What did I learn about Paul Council in the last whatever, from that content? And he thinks that, the good shit is going to stick. And I'm trying to find the balance between that, because I think in school we're taught to just like, what did you say? Okay, write that. What did you say? And then I brought that originally to absorbing content, and now I've kind of hit the other spectrum where you're just like, no notes. I'm just the good stuff is gonna stay, but then you run the risk of not taking notes ever. So how do you feel about that concept in general?
Well, I would take as usual, I'll just defer to a principle. One of the principles that I have is in there is it true on every level? So like things in nature are fractal, right? I kind of, I'm not a religious guy, but I kind of like whenever I'm stumped on something, I kind of go to nature and go like, what does it do? And nature is fundamentally fractal. And so if we take that idea and we port it over here and we go, okay, so homie just goes and listens at 2x speed and is like, oh, whatever is like super fire is just going to stick in my mind. And so like, what if we extrapolate that to like a life, like as big as we possibly can, going like, oh, well, like whatever's good in my life, I'll remember. You're like, word, like, okay, right? But what if I was actually mindful and present in every experience? Because life is what happens in the in-between times. All of a sudden, yeah, sure, what's good is still going to stick regardless, whether I do the work or not. But what if I actually do the quote unquote work of being mindful and present in every moment of my life? All of a sudden, the richness and breadth and depth of my life is far superior, right? So I would say, yes, the good stuff's going to stick regardless. Right. That might just be a little bit of a cop out to kind of not do some work, right? Or not do the work of being mindful. But I'm with you, it's going to stick either way. But how do I enrich it further? Because my time is so limited. I want to enrich every moment further, and not in a controlling way, but just in a way of like, no, this is my life. It matters to me. I mean, like, and it's like it's a way of paying mutual respect to content. It's part of the issue that we have. We don't pay mutual respect to content. Right? I respect it by giving it my time. I respect it by giving it my attention. I respect this meal. Have you guys ever gone through like, you guys remember your first kiss? You're like, wow, that shit sticks in your head, right? Because you were fully present and it was a new experience. Every moment can be like that. Every meal, every podcast can be like that, right? You just need to bring a level of presence to it, and then all of a sudden, rather than just a couple of good things sticking, you're like, wow, the whole thing was epic.
Yeah, I guess
Right?
that's an interesting point, because mindfulness is really the concept is that when you're 100% present, which is maybe a small percent of your day, that actually is what you remember. Like, obviously, there's also the concept that the subconscious mind never forgets, but like the conscious mind, if you are 100% present with the content, it's still there. Like it's almost like a memory now. But that's the thing Graham talks about a lot too. He's like, you need to be 100% present. So he's not like drifting off, but he's just like, he's with it and he's absorbing it and he's thinking about it as it's coming in. And yeah, but it's interesting.
I know me personally, I'm not smart enough or like skilled enough to if I'm in my meal or if I'm in a podcast or if I'm in my partner, that's the only thing I can do. I can't do anything else. Right. That's all I can do. And so it's just like, I don't know. I think that if we spend more time in that, it's going to come out of our subconscious into our prefrontal, where we can do more things with it. Right. So word.
And then Tiago Forte would say, like, listen to a podcast and then pull out your phone and voice note like 2 minutes about what you just learned. Like, that's another way of integrating this stuff. Like, you don't necessarily have to be taking notes as you listen to this summit or whatever. Just like reflect on it. And
yes,
yeah.
huge point. Honestly, don't even take notes as you go, because if you take notes as you go, it's gonna be way too much. It's like, wait, give it 5 minutes, process it for a moment, metabolize it for a moment, and go back and like, oh, what are 3 things I actually remember? That's key. Because all with the second brain process, it's about quick glance, what is most potent, because there's so much information. Right? I don't need most of it. And if you take notes as you go, it's a habit actually. Like if you take notes as you go, the rookie is going to take an exorbitant amount of notes, right? The pro is going to take a couple really good ones. And so if you're new to it, I would say, yeah, digest it. Wait a moment, come back to it. If you're more experienced with it, I'd say you actually know what a good note is and what a bad note is. Tiago is really cool. I love his, obviously read his book and all that type of stuff, but I would say I move away from it, because it's you're not gonna remember anything or use anything unless you make it. Take the principles from Tiago, read the book, do whatever you want to do. Take your notes, distill it down, a couple principles, and then go, how do I remake it from these principles. Okay, the code system, whatever it is, there's a couple things that I got from Tiago. And then he took those principles and extrapolated and built this system that I can plug in and use. Don't do that. Take the principles, fuck the system because it's his. So just because it's his, right? And then move it over to yours and go, how do I build my own from these same principles? Like whatever I share, it's not that useful. It's whatever you take from it and build from it. So Tiago does a really good job of making this accessible, making it simple, making it something you can plug into. I would challenge anyone on this call to go and make it yours through a creative process of creating, right?
Does anybody have any other questions for Joss?
Yes, question. Thank you, bro. I would like to know why you say you're not smart, because I think you're super smart.
Aw. There I am incredibly humbled at the level of intelligence and ingenuity displayed by humans. Like it's preposterous. It's insane. Fucking floors me. It fucking floors me. If you think you're hella smart, you're just not looking big enough. There's always a bigger fish. You know what I mean? And with the internet, you kind of just, you go out and you see the humans, right? You see the people that really, you see the Dr. Peter Attias, you see, and you're like, wow, that is smart. I'm like way down here. So if I think I'm hella smart, I'm just in a small pool, and it's all good. I don't need to be smart. I pride myself on my ability to be me. I don't need to be smart, bro. It's a waste of time. I'm good. Thanks, though. Thanks for the love.
Franz, do you have any thoughts, Franz? I know this is kind of your field as well, a little bit.
It's definitely mind blowing from like a couple perspectives. I'll look deeper into this one, process it. It's super exciting to see how you build this, and I'm still building some automations myself, so I'll just look into everything you showed there, and then I'll give some more feedback.
Yeah,
Make sure you metabolize it as well. Don't just process.
Exactly. And I'll check out Rewise.
Yes, absolutely.